Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today we're really exploring how to help you and your team find other great team members. So I brought on two of my colleagues, two of my friends from Dominate Your Market, who are doing something very innovative, so innovative that they started another company around it. And that's Matthew Crider and Ed Cainglit. So Matt, Ed, thank you for coming to the episode. Thank you for coming to share your innovative idea and your thinking with our colleagues.
Well, Steve, thank you first for having us. It's really an honor to be on your show and your podcast, and I'm just happy to be here and share with you what Ed and I have done over the years.
Thank you. And so let's talk for a few minutes. So Ed, I'm gonna ask you, talk a little bit about, let's talk about your practice so people have a context, so they understand how you two came up with this great idea. So Ed, talk about your practice first, and Matthew, then we'll talk about yours.
Sure. I'm an estate planning attorney in California, and I've been doing that for about 16 years. I also have an international practice called JLM Lawyers, where we focus on the 4 million Filipino Americans in estate planning for their Filipino assets.
I love that. So you've niched directly into that marketplace. I love that. Really well done. Matthew, how about you?
So I'm an estate planning attorney also in California. I'm in Northern California. We do estate planning, estate administration, and probate.
Matthew, you worked into becoming a estate planning attorney. My recollections, when you started with Atticus, you were pretty hardcore into the family law field, right?
Yeah, I did. So when I started my practice, I did door law. Whatever walks in the door. So I had a practice of doing some criminal law, some family law, and then um, essentially I realized that it wasn't good for my health, either my physical health or mental health, and so I transitioned into estate planning about 15 years ago.
Got it. And Ed, for you, has it always been estate planning? Did you start out that way? Were you in another practice area before you chose estate planning?
Thankfully, it has always been estate planning from day one. So, I don't know a lot about the other areas, but I do know a lot about estate planning. So it's my number one love since practicing law.
So you've started the business. Ed, talk to me about the name of the business and what was the inspiration behind it.
The name of the business is Traba Legal. Traba Legal, and so for Filipinos, obviously there's a overarching Spanish connection just from the history of the Philippines. So a lot of the Tagalog words, the Filipino words, are actually Spanish words. So we took it from trabajar or trabajo, which means work. That's the history between the word trabajar and Traba Legal.
Got it. So it's Traba Legal. And what's Traba Legal about? What are you trying to do?
We are essentially pairing our attorney colleagues with virtual assistants in the Philippines. And let me just add you know, the slow progression of how it came out. I was at that time not at Dominate Your Market. I was the version right before that, which is the practice growth platform, right?
Right.
And I was talking about this, and this is way before I met Matthew, and a lot of my colleagues in that group were essentially asking me to help them set it up. And so basically I was doing it for free. And I did it a couple of times with some of our very famous Atticusans. And then I thought, you know what, why am I doing this for free? This is one of the things that Atticus encourages, is to create some of these novel ideas and businesses. And so that really was how I wanted to ultimately turn it into a business.
I just wanted to mention that going back to your question about culture, um, one aspect of the question is related to the law firm's culture. And so the way that we deal with that in my own practice is we have a weekly team meeting every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And this is a all hands on deck meeting. We have an agenda. So, we start with gratitudes. We talk about the three rocks. We go over every open matter. And then we end with a request for support. Does anybody have a need and any administrative help you need? So that's on Monday. The other days of the week at 8 a.m., we have a daily huddle. And the reason that we do it at 8 a.m. is because it's 8 a.m. in California. It's uh, the end of the shift in the Philippines, so everybody can be there. And it's an abbreviated version of the weekly team meeting. We start with gratitudes. We talk about three rocks. We uh, end with a request for support. But what all of those meetings have in common is we're getting to know one another, and we're putting um, a face to a name, and we learn about each other when we're talking about the gratitude practice. We are learning about each other's lives, and that's how we have been able to maintain and build our firm culture. Is we're living in a great technological time where all of these things like this podcast and the streaming on YouTube is possible, and we've leveraged that through Zoom to build an international team where we can all speak with each other in real time. And so that's another part of the culture. Sometimes people ask, well, if I'm working with somebody who's on the other side of the world, how will they know me? How will they know how my team thinks and that sort of thing? Well, that's what we do, and it's been successful.
Talk to me about protecting attorney-client privilege and confidentiality.
So we've got, I would say, Matthew, and you could agree with me, I would say this is probably the number one concern, right? When we meet and we do assessments, or when we go on the show, we go down, do trade shows, for example, and people are just, peppering us with questions, is what are you doing with security, technologically, confidentiality and things like that. So I think Matthew had touched upon it. Number one, we're dealing with professional people. Most of our candidates have bachelor's degrees, professional degrees. Number one. Number two, we also do extensive background check. We use the National Bureau of Investigation's Philippines version of the FBI to do a thorough background check to make sure that our candidates are not criminals, for example. That's number two. And then number three, we do recommend certain things that we've employed using our virtual assistants. For example, Matthew, you can talk about some of the software, some of the capabilities, and some of the controls that we would recommend.
Right. So we actually, among our clients, we have a split of how the client law firms work with their VAs. And just to be clear, all of our VAs are work from home, so they're working in their own home. It's not a call center. And so some of our clients will allow their VAs to use their own equipment, so their own computer, laptop, whatever it is. Um, the other half of our clients are concerned about data security. And what they've done is they have either ordered in the US and shipped over to the Philippines, or they have worked it out so that the VA can actually purchase a machine in the Philippines that's dedicated to the law firm and for the law firm's use only. Now, there are some advantages of doing the shipping the laptop, so to speak. And let me deal with the cost issue at the very beginning. So, laptop, you're going to spend probably $2,000. Think about the cost of having a full-time person in your office in terms of rent and parking space and all of that. It pales in comparison to buy a laptop when you compare to the infrastructure costs that would be required to support that person. Rents, particularly here in California and in other areas, are pretty high. And so the cost of a laptop is fairly de minimis for what you're getting. So once you do that, you have complete control over what's on the laptop, and you can hire your IT person to only allow certain applications to be installed. You can shut it down so that they can't download any other applications. I think it's also possible to even, remotely have it so that, they can plug in a USB drive and copy information. I think they have that technology as well. And so you have a lot of control over the data